Hi, so I'm here with my new friend Pam, and we're just having a nice conversation about some recent events. But I thought I'd start by just introducing Pam and letting her say hi.
Hi, my name's Pam.
So maybe just give us a little background about yourself, just general kind of brushstrokes about who you are, where you came from, and
All right.
uh, anything else you think is relevant.
Yeah, okay. I was born and raised in the Texas Panhandle, and not a terribly dysfunctional family, but pretty dysfunctional. A lot of fighting, a lot of arguing is what I grew up with. And then I went off, and I tried just not to go home as much as I could. And life has just led me here and there. But then all of a sudden, I just, with my religious background, with my training and all this, and such harsh rules, and everything just started going crazy in my head. And, with the way the world is today, things just started going crazy in my head. And that's where I found myself now. And yeah, just lots of noise coming from all sides. And then I married into a family that had the exact opposite belief system that I grew up in. And oh my goodness, you talk about um, lots of stuff. And all I could hear in the world was just untruth and noise and hatred and bitterness. I'm getting ahead of your question here, but it's going with the flow. And it's like, what's the truth? What is the truth? And so I just started grasping at everything. And I can't tell you where the first book I got just fell in my lap, but it caused me to dismiss all my concepts. It caused me to go, okay, so this is how the brain really works, because I had no clue how the brain works. And this gave me an idea of, oh, we store stuff here. This works this way. This works this way. And I thought, wow, that's fascinating. And that helped a lot. But I knew there was something else. So I kept searching, kept searching. And through a chain, I found you. And I thought, well, this is interesting. I started reading your book, and then, wow, everything changed. Everything changed. And
Yeah,
that's how I
so
got here. Yeah.
sure, sure. So tell me a little bit about this where you started to um, become interested when you said that you looked around and you saw untruth or you felt untruth or hatred or just angst, I guess, in the world and yourself. Boy, I can relate to that 100%. That's how I
Yeah.
felt up until my 24. So
Right.
I felt like that all the time and didn't know that it wasn't. That also didn't really know that it wasn't normal. I didn't know
Right.
that there. I didn't really ever have a I don't know, a signpost that really said, "Hey, there's a way to not live like this, to not experience this kind of discord all the time in your own mind and heart." So I can relate to all of that.
Right.
Now, I like how you said that at some point you became interested in how your brain worked or how the mind
Right.
worked. And isn't that interesting that when we really start to look into suffering or what causes all this distress and frustration and anger and hatred, we can actually look directly in our own mind. And
Yes,
that
we can.
turns out to be a really
Turns out.
good thing to do.
Hmm. Yes, it does. It is the thing to do. It is
Uh-huh.
the thing to do. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And so, yeah, maybe tell me a little bit about when you started having, or however it played out for you, insights that there's something maybe altogether different going on, or something bigger maybe than the way your mind was putting reality together going on.
Right. So, I mean, this was my experience, and I had heard the term awakening, but I had no clue what it was. I had no clue what it was when I picked up your book. But all I knew is I was praying to whatever. I was raised in the church, and that was all even getting confusing. The churches are all saying different stuff. So I know, I don't want to use terminology or concepts, but I know there's a master. I don't know what word to use, because I don't want to steer anybody in any direction, but I know in my heart of hearts, because I've had a couple of experiences, divine or spiritual experiences, whatever you want to call them. So I know in my heart of hearts, or I feel in my heart of hearts, that there's an intelligence far beyond anything we can comprehend. And everything I had heard belittled that. And I was like, no, this can't be it. Now I'm getting off topic again. But what was your question? I'm
Oh no,
sorry.
I think it's great. So
No,
you're,
no, no. So I just went seeking. I didn't even know what awakening was,
mhm.
and I picked up your book and I didn't had no idea what I was fixing to get myself into. I had no idea. So I had
what was
no
your
idea.
what was your initial impression as you started reading it?
Uh, I was not going to get an impression.
Hmm.
I had just started seeking, and I was just going to start taking in information and evaluating it myself.
Hmm.
I was going to quit taking what people told me to be the truth and everything else, and I was going to just start to listening to what's inside of me. What's
Hmm.
inside of me telling me to keep listening to this person? What's telling me to keep pushing this way? And that's what I did. And man, oh man, I was just plugging along reading your book, and I got up from my chair and I was going toward the kitchen. Well, actually, it's right where I'm sitting right now. How funny is that? Um, Boom. It's like a blinder went phew, and a flash of light went boom. And I was like, what just happened? And it was like this tremendous weight was lifted from me. I still didn't understand. It has taken me till literally today to understand what just happened, processing it all, because I was so conditioned in my thinking and everything. And it was like this huge burden was lifted. It's like, wow, not that there wasn't some more work to be done, there was, but that work came from me.
Hmm.
The part that you point to is done, and the rest of the work was up to me at that point, and just listening. Stop listening to the chatter, stop listening to the chatter. And that's when I understood what it means to just be still.
Hmm.
And just so that inner me knew to just keep listening. And so that's what I kept doing, is just keep listening. And at first I didn't know if I was dead. I didn't know if I was alive, just I just had such conceptual thinking, and now I understand so much the importance of getting away from conceptual thinking. That is the worst thing we can do.
Hmm.
And so, wow, yeah. So now I feel like this is the first day of the rest of my life. Actually, now that I understood what's happened, it's oh my gosh. And then I had a dream. It was like two or three two or three nights after that initial awakening experience. I had dreams, and they were literally telling me everything. I could see them vividly. I remember them to this day vividly, and I was like, holy cow. And there was an unresolved incident that was burdening me horribly with my spouse, that I was keeping from my spouse. It was just one thing. It wasn't huge, but it still was burdening me. And I knew right then I had to get up and fix that. And I did. And of course, my spouse was looking at me like I was a nut, and it's like, I don't care. We'll deal with it tomorrow. But I'm getting rid of everything right now,
Hmm.
everything that's
Hmm.
weighing me down. And so there's a little bit of work you got to do on your own. You can get rid
Hmm.
of that conditioning, but then you got to do some look in yourself as well. And man, I cleaned out that night. I cleaned it out, cleaned it
Hmm.
all out, and it's fresh and it's clear. And physically, I see better. I really do. I can see things, and this is not just I could see clocks better. I could see lights better. I could see colors better. It's like just this clarity, not only mentally but physically. Um, wow, just
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, we don't. Well, two things I wanted to touch on. One is how you mentioned that the first thing that you noticed was how much of a weight had been lifted. And I
Yes.
can say in my own experience that is there were several um, factors that took me actually quite a long time to even process what the heck had happened. But probably the number one thing was this massive amount of weight was just
Yes.
was just gone.
Yeah.
And it was realized in one sense it was never really there. It was something I was sort of doing to myself maybe or something.
Right. Right.
But I was so amazed that I would have never ever known how heavy that was until it was gone.
No
I
way.
couldn't have
No
known.
way.
I
I
couldn't have.
didn't know it was
Yeah.
there. I did
Hmm.
not know it was there. And
Yeah.
I was clueless. And that's nobody knows how much their conditioning is hurting them. They just don't. I didn't even know the concept, and
Hmm.
it's like, oh wow, it's real. It's real.
Hmm.
And through this whole process, I mean, I've been undergoing a mental health improvement all this year. And I think my spouse just looks at me while I sit in a chair and read and search and search and search. But I can honestly tell you that in 1 week, my relationship has turned around 5,000%.
Mm,
And a lot of times it's us and we don't know it. I mean, it's not all us, it's never all us, it's
sure.
all of it. It's
Hmm.
all of it. But until somebody is willing to step back and search for the truth, everybody's going to run around in their own little falsehoods in their own
Hmm.
little heads until they decide to get out.
Yeah.
And you are, I don't care what you think, you are a prisoner of your head. You are
Hmm.
until you decide to escape.
Hmm.
And then, going forward, I'm listening to like, I just want to listen to universal consciousness, just keep it there. I'm going to be very careful what's allowed to go into my head and what is allowed to come out of my mouth, as opposed to before. That is so damaging when you don't know the truth and you're speaking non truth. It's very, very damaging
Mm. Yeah.
to me. Yeah.
It's quite a, I mean, this has been, how long has it been since this event for you?
September 22nd was when I had the initial awakening, the
Yeah.
the burst of light, and today is the first day I feel really clear,
Hmm.
in processing everything that went through. And man, it is a different world. It's a different world. And when I went to counseling at the beginning of this year, things were really bad. I lost my dad in February. My sister and I went, even though we were very close for the most part, we went through a very tough time in that and settling how we were going to handle things. And man, things were just spiraling out of control. And this has just been the answer. I don't remember exactly where I was going at that point, so apparently it
Well,
wasn't
no, I think
important. But
that's great. I think many people can relate to this, and I always like to try to gear this toward anyone who might be watching. And when you're in that place, like someone could be listening to this now and think this sounds so great, and it is, but when you're in that place where life is just collapsing in on you, you've lost
yep,
someone very important to you, you're so disoriented, so frustrated, and it just feels like all the stress is amped up worse than it ever was. That can be
yep,
such a painful and scary and disorienting place. And at the same time, the seeds for pervasive change,
yeah,
fundamental shift in identity are actually there. And
yep,
so trust life even when it's
yep,
that rough. Like really
yep,
trust that you were doing exactly that's a perfect combination. You were digging in, you were reading, you were looking into your own mind, you were inquiring, figuring, you're really looking for truth in a real palpable way through this incredibly painful time in your life. That is the form. If anyone wants to know, that's the formula for awakening. You can't always pick when it's going to happen, but life will help
nope,
and it'll show you. And
it
so
does. And
be
yeah,
ready.
and that's what I was going to say is in retrospect, I see that everything that happened in my life had to happen exactly as it did to get me right here. And I'm going to tell the story. You can edit it or not, but I was walking my dog this morning and I got into a brain loop that was unproductive. And I already said, don't let me go into unconscious. I never want to be unconscious again. And I went into a brain loop and I tripped over a sprinkler head and fell flat on my face on a sidewalk this morning, skinned up my knee, and I said, got it, got it, got it.
Right.
All right, I got it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
out.
It's amazing. And I really try to kind of point this out to people. It's like, you know, I'm glad that the book is helpful. I'm glad if someone reads Eckhart Tolle, if that's helpful to them or whatever teacher or source works for them or whatever. All that's great, whatever practices, but life is the best teacher.
Yes, it
And
is.
when you start to really open to just life as it is, the mundane, the simple, the frustrating moments, those are what really start to be your teachers, really.
Yep.
Falling on your face, becoming embarrassed, being, anything that happens can really be a great pointer if you're oriented to truth, and that just being willing to see that truth will probably and almost certainly go beyond what you think you are. It just will, and it has
Oh my
to,
goodness.
and it's
Yeah.
okay that it does that.
Yeah.
That's what you really want,
Yeah,
That's what
it
you really
is.
want.
It is.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to we're going at such a fast pace, and everybody's just going as fast as they can, harder they can, trying to find the answers, trying to find the answers. And I watched that. Everybody's looking for the answer, and they never arrive. They never arrive at the answer. And I thought, well, what is that? Why are we here? Why are we here if it's painful? It's nothing but painful. So we just cling to an idea. We cling to a person. We cling to whatever makes us feel safe, but yet we feel like we're. And now, I mean, once you go through this process, you can rest. You
Mm.
can rest in peace
Hmm.
and take it 1 minute at a time, one day at a time, and don't cause any more pain. Don't cause any more pain.
Mm. To yourself
So,
primarily, and then to others.
yeah, or anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm out. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
out.
I think what you said is so true, and that is we're in the business, the way the mind functions and the way at this the social matrix and endorsement for what it means to be a productive person and a good person and all that, it has certain tropes to it, some motifs to it that are very hypnotic, and it's a lot of seeking. And as you said, it's like looking for something out there in the next thing, in the next hit of validation. And we get so caught up in that seeking, and that's why we're not finding, because we're really not looking in the right place. And
Yeah,
that's what I
we are
really try to
not.
do in the book, is pointing the right place actually is right where you are. It really, really
It is.
is. It's not where
It
you
is.
think you are, where you think you want to be. It's not what you've learned about yourself. It's deeper than that. And
It
there
is.
and you can look there, because how can you not look there? It's crazy
Exactly.
absurd at some point, but you got to really slow that seeking down and start to go, okay, what's really, really happening here
Right. Right.
primarily? Yeah.
And I think it's for each person, it's different. It's amazing once you start seeking. I mean, the Bible says, "Seek and you shall find."
Mhm.
I'm not familiar with other religions, and I don't want to get conceptual again, but it's like, wow, not being biblical or being biblical, seek and
Mm.
you'll find,
Mhm.
whatever you are.
Mhm.
And but you got to seek. And
Yeah.
the minute you think it can be handed to you, and the minute you think you can just say, "Oh, I believe this and I'm good," well, you may be just fine, but you will endure the pain and suffering of not really seeking the truth. And
Yeah.
that's it. So,
Mhm.
and so I think, well, I guess if people are totally content and they have no pain in their belly ever, no anxiety in their belly ever, um, no fear, no depression, then they don't need your book. But if they've got any anxiety, any depression, any sadness, any worries, any fears, if you have any of that at all, start looking inside.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So you mentioned earlier also that you realized very clearly that I don't know, you didn't say it this way, but I'll say it this way. There's
Okay.
some, there's something important beyond concepts, beyond beliefs, something,
Yes.
right. Now, what can you say about that? Is that something that's here right now?
Yeah. There's the word, and then there's reality. There's what is. And you can, like I've seen somewhere else, I don't know if you said this or Eckhart said this or who said this, but you can either eat the menu or you can go for the real deal.
Mhm.
And the real deal is not the menu. And nobody can explain that to you or hand it to you. But it's not just words on a printed page. It's real. It's there. It's right in front of your face, but you have to let go of all the concepts and the words printed on pages that are trying to point, because they're not it. So you just have to sit with it, stay with it, be patient, be present, and it will come. And the clarity will come, and then you will see. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, what comes to me a bit is trust and faith in a sense, because as you said, sit with it, but be alert and be
Yes.
oriented towards truth, and be
Right.
willing to let go of your beliefs. And it sort of presents
Right.
itself as something like
Yes.
the analogy I think of is like a horse. If you see a horse in a meadow, a beautiful horse, but you don't know the horse and you want to approach the horse, if you try to walk towards the horse to kind of go pet it, it'd probably just walk away from you. But if you
Right.
get calm and still and quiet and just stay with that present moment, you might suddenly notice the horse walks up and starts to be curious about you. It has
Right.
that to it. It's a very powerful force in a sense, but it's also easy to you're not chasing it away, but by trying to grab and grasp, you just end up in a conceptual place, and you're sort
Right.
of playing hide and seek with yourself in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot grab and grasp. You cannot grab and grasp. You have to sit still and let it come to you, and it will. It
Hmm.
100 once you take your hand out of the pot and quit trying to put your concepts and your conditioning and your ideas on top of it, it will come, but you got to step out of the way. You got to get out of the way. And then boom, it'll hit you like grease light, and then you'll know, and then you'll never have to wonder again. You'll
Hmm.
always know. Um, the thing I have is stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. Just stay patient. Don't grab, don't grasp, and just be calm, and always be calm, and it'll come. And I
Yeah.
don't even know how that works. I still don't know how it worked. I still don't know how it worked. But something inside of me kept saying, "This feels right.
Yeah.
This feels right." Even though I never looked at any of this, had no clue what it was until this year, and it's like, this is right. This is
Yeah.
right, and it is. And once you go through it, you're like, oh, okay, oh, okay,
It's ineffable, but it's so obvious. It's more real
yeah.
than real, more real than what you took to be real before,
It's
and
more real than
simple.
anything I've ever experienced in my life. It's that real. It
Hmm.
is. It's, and then you realize I wouldn't trade one thing in my life if I had to give this up.
Hmm.
I wouldn't trade one piece of pain, nothing, if I had to give up this experience.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah.
What comes to mind is the very short Bible scripture, "Be still and know that I am God." It's Psalm
Mm-hmm.
46:10, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just that. There are simple clues that are in plain sight
There are.
that point us back to this, but we have to take up the challenge. Perhaps we have to take up the real willingness to get to the root of truth of what's happening.
And one of the pictures I saw of that you had on either maybe your Facebook page or something, I don't know, was the dude that was laying on the couch with the popcorn, and just like, he was like, yeah, we all just want to sit back and let it handed to us on a silver platter while we watch TV with our fat bellies and eat our popcorn. And that's what we do, and we're miserable, we're
Hmm.
miserable. And
Yeah.
so yeah, you got to take some responsibility for yourself.
Mm.
And but if you'll just sit with it and quit grasping, it's there right in
Mhm.
front of your face. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And that's the most beautiful part about this is it doesn't, I've never met you really until I chatted with you for a few minutes yesterday, but when we
Yeah.
communicate in this way, we're sharing something that's eternal and
Yeah.
it's ancient, but it's also
Hmm.
very simple and it's innocent and it's right here and it's here for anyone. And that's
Yes.
that's the beauty. And it's not special. It's not an exalted state. It's simply your true nature. And
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of it is anyone has access to it. Um,
Well, and what's funny is you'll notice little subtle things like right after all this, I had turned on the radio to listen to some music or my Apple Music, and it was like I can see clearly now the rain is. I mean, just stuff starts coming up, and it's like that's hilarious. I mean, you just start seeing these things that
mhm.
come along, and it's like, yeah, yeah, okay, life
Yeah.
starts now. Thank
Yeah.
goodness, life starts
Mhm.
now. So yeah, yeah, and I knew when I was reading your book, I was like, I just felt it, and that's why I reached out to you and said, "Do you teach 101?" You're like, "No, no," and I was like, "Okay, just be patient. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's telling you. Just be patient, keep at it, because there's something I just know there is." And so I did. I stuck with it, and then I didn't need another teacher. It came all on its
That's
own,
awesome. Yeah.
and you knew that, but I didn't know that.
I
So
might have known it without knowing it.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It
yeah.
it it is
But
very funny how these synchronicities happen. I notice that strange
yeah.
things will occur and you kind of go, "Huh, that's a head scratcher," and then it makes so much sense later. And
Oh, it
people
does.
meet who they need to meet. They pick up the book they need to pick up, and there's a lot of serendipity, but a lot of sort of synchronicity too, which is pretty cool, really
We're
is.
all connected.
Yeah.
We're
Grace,
all
yeah.
connected.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
The other thing I wanted to point out about something you said earlier was how you said the senses are clearer. The senses, the
Hmm.
visual experience is actually clearer.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
It's fascinating. It's like, I liken that to things maybe you've seen in the Bible, statements like their sight has grown dim.
Mhm,
It's like, wow, your sight grows dim with your own brain clutter or
mhm,
something. I don't
mhm,
understand that. I don't understand how that physically worked. But when that got lifted, my vision cleared a lot, and it's like everything's brighter, and it's
mhm,
the colors are bright, and I actually don't have to wear my readers quite as much because I got a
mhm,
little more clarity there. So I don't understand that concept at all, but
mm,
literally my eyesight improved.
yeah.
So
Do you notice more, how I'll say this, more intimacy with the senses? Like something that appears to be across the room is also more intimate, as if you're almost already in contact with it rather than it being somewhere else or at a
I
distance.
I can't say that I've noticed that.
Mm,
That's not been my main thing. What I have noticed, which is we're talking about senses, that well, this is a sense, I guess, is a huge compassion for
mm,
humanity now. That's the thing that's really more than anything else is this tremendous compassion for people that are hurting. That's
mm,
what's really taken and all the one of the things I said to my spouse when we were going through our arguments and stuff, and the comment was, it's your actions. And I was like, well, wait, why, how's that work? And then clarity came and all that. And we talked this morning and things are just so much better. But I was like, um, if you're looking at somebody's actions for confirmation, that's judgment. If you're looking at their actions through your conditioning, that's judgment. And I see that that's what everybody in this world is. Not everybody. I don't mean to generalize like that. People are looking at other people through the conditioning that they want to hang to as tight as everything because they're scared. They're scared to
mhm,
look at anything different.
mhm,
And that's been the big thing to me is you can't have clarity until you get all that out of your head.
mhm,
And but as far as objects, I think I'm not. It's just been a week,
mhm.
and I've been trying to figure out
Yeah,
what
no,
just
no,
happened.
no big deal at all.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
curious.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that compassion thing also reminds me very much of many years ago when I went through this, what you just went through. My heart opened so much, and it was like, I mean, I had felt warmth before, I had felt affection and love, but I had never felt anything like that.
No.
It was like a light that just came on,
Yes.
and it's boy, I don't even know how to describe how profound it was, but it was so powerful. And I remember even part of me recognizing maybe this is why people don't wake up because your heart opens so much. It almost feels like you're not in control of it because you're not.
Right.
And,
Right.
not that you're not going to love the people you love. In fact, in a sense, you love them in a different way because you see them more clearly, but also
Right.
you feel love for kind of everything, everyone.
Right.
And
You
it,
do. Now that's true. Now that in that respect, that's true. So I do look at everything. I will say that maybe this is the way I would put it is I have a sincere gratitude for everything I have now instead of just looking at it as oh, that's my favorite box or that's my
Mhm,
favorite flower arrangement. It's like I just get chills talking about it right now. You have this huge gratitude for everything, for everything. And you're right. I mean, as far as the people goes and the compassion, I was one to always run around and proclaim the truth. Yeah, this is how it is. This is how it is. You should think this way. You should think that way. But yeah, that was kind of an empath too. But then I realized, and this may be in your book too, I think it is in your book about the empath and just being careful on your path forward that everybody walks their own path. It comes to them when it comes to them. You can't push it on anybody. You can't shove it on anybody. Um, One of the things Eckhart says, don't cause more pain.
mhm,
And that's by not, it's like, Pam, you don't go push your agenda on people. Just love people.
mhm,
Just love people. Keep your mouth shut, you know, on all the stuff that's not true. Speak the truth. Um, and then everybody walks their own journey.
mhm,
And that's all you can do is just love them and let them walk their own journey and don't push agendas. But yeah, people, things, everything is clear. Everything you have such gratitude for. because you realize and you're liberated.
Hmm.
And that's what's fantastic.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gratitude for the simple things too. I think before I would have been much more like picking and choosing what's important to me, what's not important to me. And that filtering itself, which is thought based, was
Yeah.
actually like a blanket. It was a bit of a veil in front of my face. When that
Right.
is pulled aside, you realize like everything is deserving of appreciation just because it is.
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
simply alive and right there in front of you and radiant and really quite wonderful.
And I wonder if that's because, I don't know, but I wonder if it's because you stop grasping. You stop grasping for reality. You stop grasping for what's real. You stop grasping for the truth. And when you finally can relax and stop grasping, the world becomes a whole nother place. It becomes beautiful. You love people like you've never loved them before. There's a dude in some other state named James that I've just fallen in love with as a brother, and
Mm,
I'll never meet him probably.
mhm,
He's the one that directed me to you, and my heart
mm,
goes out to him, and I wish
yeah.
him the best, and I don't even know him.
Hmm.
But it's like everybody, you
Yeah.
just have such an appreciation for everybody and everything. And then, man, you go out and you look at the stars and the moon, and holy cow, that even brings in a whole nother thing. So, yeah, 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 yeah. So
I'm
it's,
so happy for you.
oh my goodness, it's 100,000% transformative.
Hmm.
Um, you have to work for it, but you don't have to work for it. You
Yeah.
have to just give it clock time and patience and stillness.
Hmm.
But you don't have to work hard. You don't have to think. You don't have
Yeah.
to squint your
Right.
eyes and do all that. You
Right.
just, you can't.
You probably will at some point, but you
I
don't have
did.
to. Yeah.
I did the first time. It's like, can you feel the sensation in your body? No, I can't. I don't feel anything.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then when you just keep being still, okay, just be still. Then finally, you feel every sense in your body. You
Mm.
start feeling those things. And I don't remember what your word for it is. The first book I wrote, what the Red was Eckhart. So that pain body that he talks
Hmm.
about,
Yeah.
it's
Eckhart
real.
Tolle's term. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a real deal for me. I don't want to conceptualize that either. But that's that intense guttural feeling
Hmm.
that when you feel fear and anxiety and it lives in your belly. And I can remember nights when all this turmoil started, and I felt that in my gut, and I couldn't go to sleep because it hurt so bad. And I would grab onto a heating pad just to try to help. And that night, sorry, I don't mean to cry, but that night that busted up, I'm sorry,
No, you're doing great. That's grace.
it busted up, and it's gone,
Mm.
and it's real.
Hmm.
Sorry, let me get a Kleenex here.
Yeah.
Uh, but you feel it, and you know it. So,
Yeah. I remember that as well. A lot of this is a long time ago for me. These initial major shifts like this. But I do remember that, and I remember the intensity of it. It felt like a kind of death, to be honest. Like it really did.
well,
Uh,
that's what I
so
told you. I
intense.
thought I died. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
thought I died, and there was just so much built in there, so much in there that when it started coming out, I thank goodness for your instruction on that because you forewarned of a little bit of confusion, and that's good. That's very, very helpful because I didn't know what was going on, but I had that I knew you were right, and inside I knew it, so I just kept following the instruction and listening, and I remained calm and peaceful. And you do get a little disoriented when you have all that horrible conditioning that you don't even know is there, busted out. You do feel like a rocket just went up into space. And I'd read that analogy somewhere where this may have been it was a teacher, I can't remember, after the awakening that I read about the rocket ship that just keeps going up and up and up and up. And I was not going to let that rocket ship come back down. I was not. It's like you're going all the way with this because this is right. And so
Hmm.
I just kept on that rocket ship and kept on that rocket ship and kept on it. And it was a joke because I play golf and it was like, okay, I'm gonna beat everybody before I die. I'm gonna figure out this golf swing before I die. And yesterday I was like, I don't know if I'm alive or I'm dead or I'm not sure where I am, but I'm gonna go hit a golf ball and see if I've learned how to hit it since I think I'm dead. And it was like it took no effort. I
Mm.
couldn't have even used good form because I hit the ball and my 6 iron went like 140 yards and straight and I was like, okay, I don't need to practice this anymore because I died. I'm not
Mm.
here. I learned the
Mm.
golf swing, so I'm dead.
I
But
love
I
it.
wasn't dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
love that. That was, I think that was the first thing you said to me when we talked on the phone is you said,
yeah.
I really don't know if I'm alive or dead, but I hit that ball and it sailed and it was
Yep.
effortless. So
Yep.
I- yeah, I think you said, I still don't know, but that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't. When I talked, that's why I could not do this interview yesterday because I still wasn't sure if I was alive or dead. I
Right.
still wasn't sure because of all the concepts I had in my head. And I think I told you this one is I was convinced the end of pain and suffering was death.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm not in pain and suffering anymore, so I have to be dead. And I literally felt my heart, see if it was still beating. I was like, I wonder if anybody sees I'm here. So I think I sent a text just to see if
Yeah.
I'd get a response. And I did. And it's like, okay, I'm still here. There's actually, you can be here without pain and suffering.
Now,
Wow.
boy, that is such a profound statement. Anyone listening to this, like just process that for a minute. That when I say that mind identification is a very pervasive, or belief identification is such a pervasive experience that we really don't know how pervasive until it drops. That you can have the belief that you have to suffer to even be alive, so intertwined in your experience that you when it drops out and you're not suffering acutely anymore, it
Yeah.
feels you can't even process that you could still be there, right? It's
Right.
amazing how intimately tied we have struggle,
Hmm.
suffering, all of that with our own identity. And all of that
Yes.
is essentially conceptual. It's really
Yep.
not like that. And
No.
what a relief to see that and feel that and live it
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you'll see your vision clear. You'll lose the pain and suffering. You will see that a lot of the things that, I also kept with, okay, if I make these changes, what are the relationships around me going to look like? And, I haven't been out walking around a lot yet, but my spouse, that's already turned 3,000%, things that I've fixed automatically cause things that they needed to fix, and vice versa. It's like, wow, once you and this is another analogy I think that's really good. One starts yelling its tails and one stops yelling its heads, you can stop and see the quarter, and then
Hmm.
you can go enjoy it, but you got to quit, you got to stop, and you got to
Yeah.
search and calm
Wow.
down. But while we're all just running ourselves in a tizzy trying to find happiness, it's just right there.
Mm.
But we're too busy trying to find it out there. We're
Hmm.
just looking so hard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the opposing views way that we're processing things a lot of times. I have this view, you have that view. Just participating in that belief system really does flavor our interactions with people more than we realize. And
yes.
if you can stop, then if you don't have to uphold your view or your self-defense or whatever, then they really don't either. They don't have to be awake or asleep. It doesn't matter. Like what
Right.
it softens everything really ultimately.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think too, one of the concepts or non-concepts that I'm keeping is truth doesn't have an opposite. Anything else is an opinion, and opinions are opinions, and they're just that, and they're not anything to side with and identify with, and I don't have to identify with this political party. I don't have to identify with this religion. I need to find out the truth, and I need to identify with what I think is the truth
Hmm.
is what I need to identify with. And
Hmm.
then let other people walk their walk. You don't need to tell them,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
So,
the other thing I wonder is, do you notice how I know I'm picking this up as I'm talking to you, so I'm just curious your perception of it.
oh,
But
sure.
do
Yeah.
you notice how complete a moment feels now, and how easy it is to let go of the previous moment and sort of it's like an aliveness
Yes.
that just keeps going on and on and on, but
Yes.
there's no
Yes.
grasping for even the previous moment. There's just what's happening here.
No,
Yeah.
you don't even think about the previous moment. The only thing, my path going forward that I've noticed I'll tend to do is I'll think about a conversation and then I'll tend to loop it,
Mm,
and it's like, okay, I need to stop that because I really want to just be aware. I love your simply always aware, just simply always aware. And just watch your thoughts. Are they looping? What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about something that's not, and chances are you're thinking about something you don't even need to think it's causing you harm. You
mhm,
need to watch your brain. You need to watch what your brain's thinking. You need to watch how it's looping. You need to be careful what you're putting in there, because it is stored.
mhm. Yeah.
It's stored in there, and we'll loop it, and
Mhm,
that's what's caused a lot of pain and suffering. So,
mm,
if that makes any sense.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's a clearing. It is a clarity like none other, and I didn't even know it existed.
Mhm,
So, if you seek, if you seek peace and comfort and true rest, it will come.
mm,
Because if I'd picked up your book 20 years ago and saw the word Hinduism or Bible, or we want to run from
mhm,
anything that doesn't align with what we've identified with.
mhm,
We need to all remember that we don't all have the whole truth. Nobody does. And when you let go of thinking you know the whole truth, then you can start growing. But until you quit thinking you know it all, you're going to live with yourself knowing it all.
mm,
And then ask yourself, if I know it all, how happy am I? Am I happy? Am I at peace?
mhm.
Okay.
Those are good.
Okay.
Those are really good questions. Boy, uh, the whole thing about suffering, when I talk about you can end your suffering, and occasionally, someone will see a video or something and say, "Oh, I don't suffer," and that's fine. I wouldn't argue with anybody. They have the right to whatever belief or opinion they have, but not uncommonly they'll come back later and say, "Oh, that's what you meant. Yeah, I feel that all the
Right.
time. That constant
Right.
anxiety, that self-doubt all the time. So, the first step really is just to recognize, wow, I really do suffer. I really have,
I think that's
self-doubt
a
and
really good,
struggle
I
and
think that, yeah, yeah, I think that's a good point because when I try to tell, it's funny when I try to tell people about your book or um, the neuroanatomist book that I read about how the brain works and stuff, people just run around thinking they're okay, I think,
Mhm,
until they really stop to think, am I really happy? But you listen to them talking, oh, yeah, I'm happy. Oh my God, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. Oh, yeah, but I'm totally, and then there's this and this and this, and then I got to deal with my family at Christmas. And oh my God. And, but yeah, I'm happy, I'm peaceful.
right.
What do you mean? And it's like, okay, all right,
Right. Right. Yeah.
go on with your bad self. Go on with
Yeah.
your bad self. Yeah.
Yeah, and once there's some insight into that, then the next part of what you said I really struck me, and that was you said, "I didn't even know this existed." And that was probably the number one reason I wrote the book, and I tried to write it with as little spiritual terminology as possible. I try to write it as direct and warmly, and just like, "Hey, this could be about you. Just look and see, don't take my word for it. Check
And
in."
you did an outstanding job
That's
of that,
that's all I was
Angelo.
trying to get across is like,
You
if
did
you
a,
don't know it's a possibility, it's very easy to stay in that cycle of thinking, wanting, buying, arguing, whatever we do, right?
right.
But if you something just stops you in your tracks enough, a little bit of wonder, a little bit of like, wow, yeah, I remember that as a child. I remember being present. I remember just being okay with everything and not worrying about what time I had to go in eat dinner, and I was just there. And but there's something that knows, something in all of us, of course, that knows this possibility. And so that's really the if I can get anything across in any video I do, this video, any of my videos I make, or the book, like me or hate me, think my hair is goofy, doesn't matter. If you can actually
Hey,
ask yourself
yep.
that question, yeah, right. We have gray hair, don't we?
Yeah, we have great hair.
If you can ask yourself that question and get the answer that just goes just a little bit beyond your own concepts, and
Yep.
something in there says yes,
Yeah.
that's you have the right to dig into that until you get your answer, until you
Yep.
get the living answer, until you are in that rocket ship and it just
Yep.
takes off and it leads you to a place that that really surprises you, but also feels very right and feels like, of course, this
Yeah,
is
and I want to say, I
yeah.
do want to say this too for those out there. I don't know if this will mean anything to anybody, and I don't know if this came from your book or something else I read, but at the age of whatever, 1.5, 2, we start feeling that separation from our parents. And I have my sister's got her first grandbaby, who is absolutely adorable, and she's will be 2 in November. And I noticed when we were at my sister's house, now it's mommy, 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 clingy, clingy, clingy. And I watched it and I thought, wow, she's starting to feel that separation
Mhm.
and she's clinging to mommy. And unfortunately, we never lose that. We think we're grown. We think but we're still clinging. We just don't know it. We're still clinging. We're all clinging, whether it's to money, to a person, to a religion, to a political party. We're all clinging, trying to figure out what's
Mm,
going to happen to us. And we
yeah.
don't realize that. And that made a big impression on me as well. And now, when I finally let go that night of horrors, and I will say it was a night where you come to the realization of where you're wrong. And it's like, wow, I had to let go of what I was clinging to for my life. And when you realize that all the things that you were clinging to were not saving your life, they were destroying your life, then you can start. Then you can start.
Mm. You mentioned the night of horrors, the night of horror.
I don't know. The internet, I saw Dark Night of the Soul. So I don't know
Yeah.
what you would call it.
Mhm.
That fit it, though. I would call it the Dark Night of the Soul. It was one night, and I'll tell you what, in my experience, I'm not one to half-ass do a job. Obviously, I'm not. But anyway, I knew that night that unconscious activity had to get completely cleared out. And here's what it felt like to me. It felt like I was blessed to have all the conditioned things that I was not responsible for in my life that was causing pain blown out. Like I said with my spouse, there were a couple of things that I knew couldn't be blown out because they were things I was currently doing that was wrong. And I got up out of bed at midnight and fixed them. I looked like a blithering idiot, but I did. And it was a night where you come to terms with your soul to say, I gotta let go. I gotta let go. I'm hanging on to this. I'm hanging on to this. And that night I was willing to give up my marriage, give up my house, give it all up. And that's when you finally really, really let go of everything you're clinging to and just let that wonderful universal consciousness calm you down and speak to you, and you let that, and yeah, you're scared, but if you just be still and keep resting, be still, and it just starts coming, and it's coming, and you won't know if you're dead or alive, but just keep listening to Angelo and he'll tell you you're alive and you're fine. Just be still. And then when it's all finished, you're good to go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
That's right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it
And
can
then
be intense, and that's important. That's an important thing, and it's an important part of what I try to tell people as well. That you know, one thing I think that's important to realize is this process doesn't bring about emotion that's not already there. It's just
right.
repressed. So the fears, the angst, the self doubt, the anger, like this stuff is buried deep within us, and when we have it
Mhm.
buried and repressed, then we act out on it unconsciously and don't realize
Yes,
it.
we
And
do.
that's when
Yes,
we
we do.
cause harm. So this process in a sense brings it out into the surface, and it brings it to a place
Mhm.
where you can bring it into consciousness. And then, as you mentioned, when you start coming in contact with that universal consciousness, you may not call it universal consciousness, but you'll damn well know something's happening. And you start to
Right.
trust that and give it over to that, you realize you're giving all of this this repressed material to a space that's beyond. It's expansive. It's infinite,
Right.
and it's a huge shift to be
Right.
able to bring that into consciousness. But as you can imagine, when you bring it through consciousness and you're not used to it, it can be very, very intense and
Right.
disorienting and all that. But it's okay. It's part of the process, and it's just how this
Right.
goes. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, universal consciousness, by that, if you want to know my background, universal consciousness would have been the word God. It may
Hmm.
not be that for somebody else, but it is the massive intelligence of everything that is.
Hmm.
And, my concept of it was much smaller than what it actually is.
Yeah.
And boy, that's like, wow, that's an awakening in and of itself. Holy cow.
Yes.
Wow. I
Yes.
I put God in a very small box.
Yes. Yes.
And God doesn't need to be in a small box.
Hmm.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
He's the box. He's
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. Whatever
Yep.
terminology you want to use, it does not. The terminology is irrelevant.
Yeah. The terminology,
The
in some sense, is the box. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
because
yeah.
the terminology is going to be related to what we think is true about us in the world, and it's limited.
Right.
What we're talking about is not limited, very
That is right.
obviously. Yeah.
Oh, it's not at all limited, and it is spectacular beyond belief. But you do have to remove all the filters
Hmm.
to see the spectacularness of it all, and
Hmm.
you got to get those filters removed. And I don't understand how this process. I don't to this day, right now, I don't understand how this worked. I don't.
Hmm. Hmm.
But something inside of me just kept, and that's part of the confusion is I had no concept of what was going on here. And it's like finally it's like, oh, okay, I'm alive. Here we go.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
and I mean, it's largely a mysterious process. I think because I've looked through this and looked through the mind and the way it functions and worked with so many people for so long, I have ways of describing it and so forth. But ultimately, it's a pretty mysterious process. There's something quite mysterious about this. Call it Holy Spirit, call it universal consciousness. There's something also quite mysterious about it. Because if you know what it is, you already have a view, you already have a fixed perspective.
Right,
This is beyond
right.
perspectives. So there's
Yeah, it
something
is.
about it that's quite ineffable and beautifully so.
I think, I mean, if you want me to say, the only thing I can think of to say is it is the most compassionate thing that God, universal consciousness, whatever your terminology, it is the ultimate compassion on you.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, it is you witnessing the most ultimate compassion and forgiveness and realization that you are perfect and whole, just the way you are, just the way you're intended to be. And yeah, it got muddied up and it got filtered and it got conditioned and it got filthed on and whatever else, but it is the ultimate gift of compassion
Hmm.
to me, is what it feels like.
Absolutely.
Just
Absolutely.
just the ultimate. Yeah.
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 I like the term grace, and I also like the definition of grace that it's undeserved. And it
Yes.
is, right? It's not like I earned it or you earned it. You
No.
just in a sense it's just you are it. It's
Yeah.
your birthright. It's just how this is.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful when you allow yourself to be surrendered enough to let it just come forward. Come up through
Right.
the cracks just to present itself as literally everything. It's quite amazing.
Right. Yeah, it's funny when you let the self that is supposed to be the self run the show, things get a whole lot easier because you don't know how to run the show until
Hmm.
you get all the I mean, you know what I mean. You've just
Yeah.
got to get all the trash. You got to take out the trash.
Hmm.
Um and I guess the biggest thing is it's work, but it's not work.
Hmm.
And that's hard to describe. It
That
is and it's
paradox.
not.
As I was going to say, the paradox chapter is the reason I put that so early in the book was because just to give people a taste of the paradox of all this, and
Right.
it is quite paradoxical. It's the most
Yeah.
obvious thing in the world. It's undeniable, and yet it's mysterious. You can't really
Yeah.
say what it is.
Mm-mm.
It's something that if you orient toward, it's totally available, and yet you can't force it to happen either because, well, it's already happening for one thing. So it
Yeah,
is paradoxical. Yeah.
right, right.
Hmm.
But yeah, and it's just wow. I don't even have words. I would have never expected this. I would have never expected this when I started my journey, um, to try to figure out why. I mean, I was in a bad place, a lot of anxiety. I really was to the place, and I haven't told anybody this, but I actually asked to die. I mean, I was like, I don't care.
Mm.
I don't care. Why does somebody with cancer have to die when they have this happy family and everything, and I'm still here? Um, why am I still here?
Mm.
What's the point? And I think when you just hit that, then the grace that needs to come in comes in. And if you just be still and listen, because it's like, okay, I'm going to be still and listen. Tell me something. Tell me something. And when you just sit still and you say, talk to me here.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Being
Yeah.
and I was 100% there. I was so miserable. I can laugh now, as many years ago, but I was so miserable. I remember thinking I could kill myself, but even that, I somehow I just knew it wouldn't really solve the problem. There was a bit,
Right.
I needed a solution beyond anything I could do.
Right.
I needed a solution beyond me and my control thoughts and my
Right.
belief that I could think my way out of this and just making my cage smaller every time I tried to think
Right.
my way out of it. And so there was something about that, but I did come to the place where I was ready to die. Like
Yeah.
I thought if I have to die going through this, I have then so be it
Right. That's
because
where I
because
was.
I'm
Yeah.
suffering. Like it's just as
Yep.
brutal.
Yep.
And I don't know how to manage it. I don't know how to,
Right.
I can get by, but I don't know how to manage this in a way that feels deeply authentic and feels peaceful and so forth.
Right.
Um, so I had to let go in a
Yeah.
deep way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, what's the easiest way to kill yourself? And then I thought, well, crap. For all I know, if I kill myself and I'm a chicken shit, then I might have to go through it again. I
Right.
might get reincarnated or something because you
Yeah.
didn't do your time. And
Yeah.
so it's like, no, there's got to be a better solution than this. And
Hmm.
um,
Yep.
and that's when you just get still and the answers start coming. I mean,
Mm.
there you are, Angelo DeLulo, somebody way off somewhere, and we are all connected. I mean, it's
Mm.
just beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, just beautiful how things just start coming when you start looking for the truth.
Yep.
When you start searching for the truth, things start coming.
Hmm.
But when you're grabbing at untruths, when you're grabbing at the things of this world for happiness, you won't find it.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, I
So,
also, as I was talking to you, I'm picking this other thing up I feel like saying, and that is that we're talking about this as an event, like something that happened a few days ago, and it did in a way, in a very real way.
mhm.
And yet the mysteriousness and the unfolding of this that we're talking about is also not an event. It's happening right now.
Yes, it is.
It's ongoing. It's like just constant discovery of aliveness, of
Right.
wonder, of wow. And that stays. That's the amazing thing. It's part of the way reality functions.
Right.
Wonderful. Yeah.
It is. And that's what I think, that night I knew when I wanted that ultimate change and I had what I would call the dark night of the soul or whatever. It's like I need to get rid of everything. Get rid of it all. And then like you say, once it's gone. I mean,
Hmm.
it's gone. I don't even remember what those loops were that were running in my head. I don't even remember what they were that was causing me so depressed. They're gone.
Hmm.
And the only loops I can get in my head dragging me down now are what I choose to put in there if I want to just directly instill sadness in myself, I guess I
Hmm.
could, but it's gone,
Hmm.
completely gone. It's gone right now. It's gone, and it's I don't understand it, but well, like I said, it's the ultimate gift of grace, compassion, just when you reach bottom, and that's why to me it can't be. The universal consciousness is pure love and joy.
Mm.
Pure love and joy. There's no
Would you have ever
opposite.
would you have ever guessed that?
No, no, because what I was taught was that this loving person was very judgmental and
Hmm.
very harsh. And what I found out was when you reach rock bottom and you're tired of yourself, that perfect love and joy will come down,
Hmm.
pick you up
Hmm.
when it's
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Hmm.
And however you want to conceptualize or not, don't, because it's beyond a word on a page. It's not a word on a page. It
Yep.
is. It's what is, not
Yeah.
a word on a page.
Do you remember when that started to become obvious, like reading the book, for instance, where you start to say, because the mind will always say, oh, it's about, I'm trying to understand the concepts. I'm trying to, and then something just opens beyond that. And you start to pick it up like a frequency almost.
Yeah, and that's hard to describe. For me, it felt like almost like you sense it, but you get this vision of the, and I don't want to create a concept, but you get this vision of the devil and the angel, and it's like what's real, and the devil, not to, there's no devil, I'm not trying to, because it keeps saying, oh, you better
Mhm.
not give this, oh, you better do that, and it's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. No, be quiet, be quiet. So I knew that things were coming in. I knew that wisdom was trying to come in, but the ego, whatever you want to call it, just
Hmm.
kept trying. Like you said, boy in the book, you got that right. You got to watch that little bugger, because that little bugger tries to steal the show the whole way through the process.
Yeah.
Um, and
And,
so you
and
got to keep that bugger at bay. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think what you're describing, my take on what you're describing there or personifying is doubt. We don't realize how much of a
Yes.
blanket of doubt we have, that we doubt
Yes.
ourselves, we doubt our instincts, we doubt our thoughts, we doubt there's so much doubt going on.
Boy, there is.
But after a while it starts to feel kind of foreign, like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the doubter here. Those are thoughts,
Yeah.
and then something can
Yeah.
start coming through. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you realize, that's like I kept these words. Who's the thinker and who's observing the thoughts? All those things are like so vastly important. And as you look at those, and you don't try to do, like I said, you
Yeah.
just calmly listen. Just
Hmm.
listen for once in my life, Pam. Listen
Hmm.
instead of trying to talk or take over or whatever. Just be still. And yeah.
Yeah.
Let that doubt quit trying to drive the reins,
Yeah.
because it'll come in. It's fear. It's just fear. It's fear
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fear of the unknown and fear of the mysterious in the
Right.
form of doubt that clothes itself as intelligence sometimes, or discernment.
Yes.
It's not really
Yeah.
discernment. It's really fear, but the
Yeah.
mind chatters on and makes its intelligent arguments. But
Right.
yeah. Um, well, wonderful.
Yes, it has been wonderful. So it's been amazing.
Well, I think we can stop. We're about an hour now. Maybe we'll stop here and then
Okay.
maybe catch back up in 6 months or something
Sure.
for a follow up. But
Sure.
I really really appreciate you doing this, because
Oh, my
outside of
pleasure.
all of this wonderful shift that's gone on with you and that's going to continue to unfold, this will, I 100% know this will impact people. And there are going to be
Oh,
people contacting me saying, she's so relatable. I'm just like her. Every person that goes through this, there are people who are going to relate very, very well to that person. And you're going to be very relatable to certain people. And it helps. It just transmits. And I really appreciate your honesty, your
oh,
vulnerability,
my
um,
pleasure.
your sharing, wonderful
My
sharing,
pleasure.
and it's just so nice to meet you.
If I can contribute to anyone coming out of their misery, that's what I need to do. And you
Hmm.
did that for me, and I would do that for anybody. however that is, I can do that.
I
So,
love it. It's
yeah,
very kind.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome. Thank you for your work. I know you have a really big job, and you take your time to put all this effort to help people, and that's huge. And thank you so much for your work, and the difference you've made in my life is not even speakable. So,
You're
thank you
welcome.
so much.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, and
welcome.
hey,
And
and anything I can do for you. I mean, if you see a need, and I'm retired, if you have a need for this or that, I'm good with computers, good with whatever. Let me know what you need help with.
you're very
I'll be glad
generous.
to help.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank
Okay.
you. All
All
right,
right.
bye.
Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.